Imagine waking up in the early morning light, not to the sound of a phone alarm or the hum of traffic, but to the distant call of birds and the rustle of forest life. The air is crisp and unpolluted, but you're instantly aware of something else. You're alone, surrounded by trees, and you have no idea where you are. You don't recognize the landscape, and your clothes feel out of place. You've been transported without warning into pre-colonial America, an unforgiving, wild land that modern humans are simply not built to survive in. And the clock has just started ticking on your 24-hour countdown. The first challenge? Orientation. There are no roads, no signs, no familiar sounds to guide you. The terrain is vast and diverse, ranging from dense forests to open plains, swamps to arid deserts, all depending on where you landed. If you're in the Northeast, you might be surrounded by thick woods full of bears, wolves, and the constant hum of insects. If you're in the Southwest, the scorching sun and lack of water could kill you faster than any predator. With no GPS, no map, and no way to communicate, you're completely vulnerable. Nature doesn't care if you're a tourist. It plays by its own rules. Then comes the question of shelter. You're dressed for the modern world, but out here, your sneakers and t-shirt won't protect you from the elements. Insects bite, temperatures drop sharply at night, and sudden storms can roll in with no warning. The native peoples of this land built shelters specifically designed for their environment. Wigwams, longhouses, adobe dwellings, all made with deep knowledge of local materials and climate. You're just hoping your jacket is waterproof and your phone still has some battery. Spoiler alert, it won't help you. And we haven't even touched on food. The grocery store doesn't exist, and that protein bar in your pocket won't last long. You don't know which berries are safe to eat, which mushrooms will kill you, or how to trap or hunt anything at all. The indigenous peoples spent their entire lives learning what modern humans have long forgotten: how to read the land, track animals, forage intelligently, and prepare food without refrigeration or packaging. Within just a few hours, hunger, dehydration, and disorientation are setting in. You're not thriving. You're barely hanging on. And you've still got 20 hours to go. Now that you've realized there's no food court or clean water fountain nearby, you go searching. But that simple act, walking through the forest or wading into a stream, could be fatal. Pre-colonial America was teeming with wildlife, much of it dangerous and unafraid of humans. Panthers stalked silently through the southeast. Grizzly bears ruled the west. Timber wolves hunted in packs. And unlike in modern times, you're not protected by firearms, fences, or emergency services. One wrong move could turn you from observer to prey. But predators aren't your only concern. Smaller creatures pose even greater threats. Insects carry diseases your body has no immunity to. A single mosquito bite could expose you to malaria or yellow fever, both endemic in various regions. Ticks are even worse, transmitting potentially deadly infections like Rocky Mountain spotted fever. And then there are the plants. You can't identify poison ivy, poison oak, or wild parsnip. Touching the wrong leaf could leave you blistered, feverish, or blind. Eating the wrong berry could stop your heart. Water, something you desperately need. That sparkling stream might look pure, but it's likely full of parasites and bacteria. The indigenous peoples of this land boiled water using heated rocks or special pottery, or they drew from specific springs they knew were safe. You don't have that knowledge or those tools. Giardia and dysentery aren't just inconveniences out here. They're potentially fatal. One wrong sip, and your already short 24-hour clock could be cut in half. Survival isn't about fighting one big enemy. It's about avoiding 100 small ones. Even the weather is out to get you. In the Great Plains, storms can appear out of nowhere, bringing hail, lightning, and flash floods. In the north, a cold snap can freeze you by nightfall. In the south, heat stroke can sneak up on you by noon. You don't know how to read the clouds or the wind. You can't predict seasonal patterns, and you have no shelter to run to. Every hour is a fight against forces you barely understand. And with no help coming, your odds of making it through the night just keep getting worse. You're completely unprepared. You don't know how to start a fire without matches, how to find safe shelter, or even how to orient yourself without a phone. In pre-colonial America, survival depended on hard-earned knowledge passed down through generations. Indigenous communities spent their entire lives learning how to live in harmony with their environment. You might not even know which direction the sun rises. The second your shoes wear thin or your clothes tear, you'll feel the land pushing back against your every move. Navigation isn't just about knowing where north is, it's about understanding landscapes. Indigenous hunters could track animals by reading broken twigs and crushed grass. They knew how to avoid quicksand, where snakes sunbathed, and which trails were safe. You're walking blindly through a world that was never designed with you in mind. Even setting up camp could be a death sentence if you choose the wrong spot, too close to predators, too exposed to storms, or right in the path of a migrating herd. You don't know how to hunt either. Not with a bow, not with traps, not even with your bare hands. Pre-colonial peoples crafted traps from vines, sharpened sticks into spears, and fashioned bows that took months of experience to master. You have none of that. And even if you somehow killed an animal, do you know how to butcher it? How to remove parasites? How to preserve the meat without refrigeration? Your ignorance is lethal. You're not starving because there's no food. You're starving because you don't know how to find or process any of it. Even the simplest tools escape you. Indigenous people made cordage from plant fibers, axes from sharpened stone, and containers from bark and hide. You might be surrounded by materials, but you wouldn't recognize a usable one if it hit you in the face. You've spent your life relying on pre-made tools, clean packaging, and endless instructions. Now, in a world that demands innovation and self-sufficiency, you're helpless. You're not just in the past. You're in a completely alien reality, where your knowledge counts for almost nothing. Even if you somehow manage to avoid the wildlife, weather, and disease, there's still one massive issue. You're not alone out here. This land is already inhabited by well-established indigenous nations with their own languages, laws, and borders. And you're a complete outsider. You don't speak the language, don't understand the customs, and you just stumbled into their territory without permission. This isn't a lawless wilderness. It's a world of diplomacy, alliances, and boundaries you can't even see. And violating them could mean serious consequences. Indigenous societies were complex and varied. The Haudenosaunee had sophisticated political systems and confederacies. The Mississippians built massive urban centers with ruling elites. Tribes like the Comanche and Apache were fierce and mobile, constantly defending their land. You're not arriving as a guest, you're trespassing. And without an introduction, without a translator, and without understanding the local power dynamics, you're more likely to be viewed as a threat than a curiosity. No, they won't immediately kill you, but that depends on the tribe, the time period, and your behavior. And you don't even know how to greet someone properly. Even peaceful encounters could be disastrous. You don't know how to signal that you're not a danger. You might accidentally show your teeth, interpreted as aggression. You might offer your left hand, insulting in some cultures. You don't know the value of anything you carry, and you certainly don't know the sacred sites you're trampling over. And if you're seen as disrespectful, even unintentionally, there may be no second chance. You can't Google your way out of this. One mistake can turn a peaceful village into a defensive force. You're not prepared for diplomacy either. Pre-colonial trade networks spanned continents. Wampum belts held messages more meaningful than simple beads. Tobacco wasn't just a plant, it was ceremonial, sacred, and binding. Gift-giving could forge alliances or break them if handled poorly. You're entering a world where every gesture, every object, every silence speaks volumes. And you're mute. Not because you can't speak, but because you don't know the language of survival here. Social survival is just as important as physical survival, and you're failing both. Let's be honest, your body isn't ready. You've spent your life in climate-controlled environments, walking on paved roads, and wearing shoes that cushion every step. Now you're barefoot on sharp rocks, sticky mud, thorny brush. Your feet start to split. Your skin blisters. Every muscle starts to ache. You're sweating through your clothes, but that doesn't matter. Your modern fabrics don't dry easily, and they're not made for this kind of endurance. Indigenous people were hardened by constant movement, built by the land itself. You're already breaking down. Even your senses are dulled. Indigenous hunters could hear the difference between a predator's paw and a deer's hoof in the brush. They could smell changes in the wind, feel shifts in humidity that signaled approaching storms. You can't even tell which direction the weather's coming from. Your ears are ringing from the constant noise of birds, bugs, frogs, and unseen animals rustling nearby. You're jumpy, you're overwhelmed, and every sound in the dark becomes a monster you can't see. Because your night vision, dulled by screen time and electric lighting, is almost useless. Your diet isn't helping either. Your body is used to processed sugar, steady salt, and artificial preservatives. Now you're forced to forage, or worse, go without food entirely. Your stomach cramps. You're dehydrated because you don't know how to locate or purify water. And even if you do find something to eat, berries, nuts, maybe even a fish, you have no idea which plants are poisonous or how to cook meat without modern cookware. Your metabolism turns against you, burning through energy fast and giving you nothing back in return. Every hour, you're weaker than before. And then there's the insects. You weren't expecting that, were you? Swarms of mosquitoes rise from stagnant pools, ticks burrow into your skin, and gnats coat your face in a fine, unrelenting fog. You can't escape them, not without smoke, oil, or knowledge of natural repellents that you don't have. Indigenous people used crushed herbs, fire pits, and specialized clothing to fight back. You just itch and suffer. It sounds small, but day after day, these minor discomforts become unbearable. Your body, soft and unused to true survival, starts to beg for the modern world, and it's nowhere to be found. By now, you're starting to realize just how helpless you are without your gear. No phone, no lighter, no knife, no flashlight, nothing. Indigenous peoples of pre-colonial America weren't just surviving. They were thriving with tools honed through generations of innovation. They shaped stone, bone, and wood into weapons, fishing gear, baskets, and tools. You're staring at a stick, hoping it turns into something useful. Even starting a fire, a basic, life-saving skill, is nearly impossible without flint, kindling, and know-how. One wet night, and you're cold, hungry, and defenseless. Shelter is another cruel wake-up call. Indigenous people built homes suited to their environment. Longhouses, wigwams, plank houses, earth lodges, teepees, all designed to withstand the seasons. They used bark, animal hides, woven reeds, and packed earth, placed with precision for airflow, insulation, and durability. You pile up a few branches and hope it doesn't rain. You didn't think about drainage. You didn't think about airflow. You didn't even think about predators, insects, or falling branches. In less than a day, your makeshift hut collapses, or worse, invites something inside. And let's not forget food storage. Indigenous communities dried meat, smoked fish, fermented vegetables, stored nuts in woven baskets high in trees, and used underground pits cooled by earth and snow. They prepared for winter before summer even ended. You're trying to keep a handful of berries from getting smashed in your pocket. You can't hunt because you've got no weapons, no traps, and no technique. Even if you somehow killed something, you don't know how to gut it, skin it, or cook it without poisoning yourself. Hunger is no longer a discomfort. It's a countdown. Your body and mind are fraying now. Every hour is harder than the last. Indigenous knowledge took thousands of years to develop, and you skipped all of it. You don't know the plants, the seasons, the animals, or the stars. You can't even tell true north. Everything around you is screaming for attention. Your skin itches, your stomach growls, your feet bleed, and your mind spirals. You thought you were stepping into a history lesson, but this isn't the past. This is survival. And without tools, without shelter, and without ancestral knowledge, you have no chance. If you think survival is just about staying warm and fed, you're still missing the most dangerous element: human interaction. Pre-colonial indigenous societies had complex social rules, built on kinship, reciprocity, hierarchy, and deep spiritual frameworks. Every gesture, word, and action had meaning. You don't know the rules, the taboos, or the sacred customs. You don't know when to speak, or when silence is expected. Even eye contact might be misread. One careless move, and you've offended a leader, a healer, or the entire band. And here, you can't apologize with a tweet. A misstep might cost you trust or your life. Indigenous diplomacy wasn't simple. Across the continent, tribal groups negotiated alliances, marriages, seasonal migrations, and trade with nuance and respect. These weren't primitive people. They were skilled negotiators and relationship builders. Wampum belts in the Northeast recorded agreements. Gifts were exchanged not just for value, but for symbolism. And then, here you are, lost, clueless, with no offering, no protocol, and no understanding of which clan system you've wandered into. Even if someone decides to help you, you're marked, unpredictable, unaware, and possibly dangerous. You also have no role. In most indigenous societies, everyone had a defined purpose: hunter, gatherer, healer, storyteller, elder, warrior, childbearer, firekeeper. Your presence offers nothing. You can't hunt. You can't help gather. You're not a spiritual guide, not a medicine maker, not even comic relief. You are a burden, extra mouth, no skills. In cultures where survival depended on contribution and balance, that's a serious liability. Some societies welcomed outsiders. Others were wary, especially in times of scarcity or after traumatic encounters. You don't know which this is, and there are no second chances. And it's not just about survival. Indigenous lifeways weren't hollow routines. They were rooted in cosmology and cultural identity. Every hunt had ritual. Every story had a lesson. Every landscape had spirit. You, meanwhile, don't even know the name of the river you're near, let alone its sacred role in origin stories. Your ignorance isn't just practical, it's spiritual. You're not just out of place. You're out of time, out of touch, and out of depth. Socially, culturally, spiritually, you don't belong. And in pre-colonial America, that could be the most dangerous thing of all. You made it through the wild night. Barely. Maybe you found shelter beneath a fallen log or managed to drink from a stream without getting sick. But let's be honest, you're not surviving. You're enduring. And that's not the same thing. Every hour brings a new threat you never considered. Your legs ache from walking miles barefoot through thorns and rocks. Your mind is cracking under the silence, the kind that's alive, watching, ancient. You've stumbled into a world that's not made for you, and it shows in everything from your soft feet to your rattled nerves. You can't build shelter. You can't start a fire without a lighter. You've forgotten how to listen deeply, track movement, or interpret the sky. Pre-colonial America didn't care about your degrees or your digital fluency. Comfort is earned. Through generations of cultural knowledge and harsh adaptation, these people didn't just survive, they thrived. They knew every plant, every animal sound, every change in the wind. You, meanwhile, mistake a poisonous berry for a snack. Your plastic-coated rain jacket can't match the skillfully tanned hides they wore. Even the children in these societies had more survival wisdom than most modern adults. And even if you somehow last the day, the night comes again, colder and darker. You're still a stranger. No one is coming to find you. The nearest village is a day's walk, through terrain you can't read, in a language you don't speak, toward a culture that has no obligation to understand or trust you. You're not just physically outmatched. You're existentially misplaced. Every attempt to adapt exposes how utterly disconnected you are from nature, from tradition, from the very idea of interdependence. You're not in danger because you're weak. You're in danger because this world was never designed around your version of being human. So why wouldn't you survive 24 hours in pre-colonial America? Because this place demanded more than toughness. It demanded knowledge, respect, presence, patience, and deep-rooted identity. And those aren't things you can improvise with panic and desperation. Pre-colonial indigenous peoples weren't living in a primitive past. They were masters of a present you can't comprehend. You're not a time traveler. You're a tourist. And here, that's not enough. Not to live, not to belong, not even to last a day.